Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. In the last episode, we had just finished up with dealing with most of what was happening in Europe, finishing final movements with the British Navy, but we still have a couple more things to do with the British turn before we move on to China. Namely, one thing I have in mind to look at is down here in Africa. I believe it's still pretty important to prepare any British forces anywhere nearby a battle zone that we can utilize to turn against the enemy, because every man we have, especially without paying for new groups, can be vastly important. Making a new army costs 250. We can reinforce the South African HQ all the way up to 10. Little bit expensive, but that means pretty much anything near it should be able to get supply, I believe, to upgrade. Right now, that only matters for a single South African corps, but if we take those and we move them north, because let's be real, I don't expect the Axis to come down traipsing and invading South Africa. It's an AI, you know, a player might do that, and I might think about that in a PvP, but as of right now, I'm not thinking about that. It doesn't matter to me. We can also further reinforce the HQ here, which should also help us reinforce the Sudan Defense Corps, which is kind of going to block the way out of Ethiopia here. But it isn't my goal to get the South Africans up here into Kenya, where hopefully they can provide some assistance. And we can kind of get started on that whenever we want. Now, we're not going to be able to operate up there, because I believe this is the rail line right here, and the rail line stops right here. It does not go any further. We can get to Kenya like that, but I do believe that we should sail if we go there. So I think I'll start messing around with this process right now. We're going to go ahead and... Actually, hang on a second. We can upgrade this South African Corps before we move it out, technically speaking. You know what? It's actually rather cheap to get this stuff. The mobility is the most expensive thing. It's also the most important thing. The anti-air defense, probably not going to be very important in Africa, but it's so cheap. I'll just tack it on. Might as well. But we're going to be getting this corps moving up north, I believe, in good time. All we really need to defend back here would be garrisons, because I don't believe we're in any threat from an AI coming down here. I don't quite know how Madagascar is going to work in terms of how the game's going to treat that. But this is the kind of thing I'm looking at when it comes to South Africa, is I'm trying to use the troops that are already out there. Looking at what else we might be able to get our hands on in terms of British technology that we can currently afford with 130 MPPs. I'm going to say putting some points into command and control could be potentially pretty helpful. Buffing up our HQs and thus buffing up our other units as well is the ideal situation from this as we further approach our maximum research cap. But other researchers are progressing, so hopefully that works fine. I was considering getting New Zealand and Australia forces up to snuff because they could prove pretty helpful and it'd be cheaper than making new units. But I've spent so many points already, like 200, maybe a little more than that, on non-research related things this turn. Let's just go ahead and research something. Take advantage of the fact that the UK can do this. And now we have the difficult front to look at. The Japanese went on a huge offensive just before this. We have the 42nd Army of China up on the front here with one strength, a plummeted readiness and morale. If we leave this here, even if we reinforce it, there's a good chance it's going to fall unless we do something else, unless we can do something else to somehow fix this. No matter what happens on this front, I feel like I can say with confidence, you know, this army will die if we leave it here. And this corps is not going to be able to reinforce what an army was holding. It just won't work that way. Therefore, I have an idea. It's going to further reduce the entrenchment level here, but at the very least, there will be an army there. So what I'm going to do here, in an effort to save this army's life, rather than let it get gangbanged by all of these units, just without competition, is I'm going to try to make the Japanese regret doing this. So first, we're going to transfer the sides the army is in. Basically meaning we're giving up the fortifications that this army was in to begin with, in order to reinforce them here in the marsh, because there's less danger here. Rather than be surrounded by two armies and some special forces, we are surrounded by 2 armies. The enemy air force is up there, so I do fear that if I did the nonsense required to get this army here and this corps here, that all these bombers, medium bombers and TAC bombers, would simply dive bomb right here and kill the army anyway, and there goes a force worth 250 MPPs out of the fight. Whereas if I reinforce this for like the 100 MPPs I just did, and it lives, even if I have to reinforce it again from 1 to 10, I'm saving MPPs and killing Japanese in the process. And so we cannot give them the opportunity here to decide that they want to reform and focus down this army. They need to feel some kind of pain. And so we have opportunities to lash out here. And so I'm going to. Potentially dangerous, but I'm going to. We are first going to take the 12th Army here. We are going to attack the 17th Army of the Japanese. We're going to strike out from our fortifications. That worked really, really well. We killed 2, we lost 1. I mean, I could have asked for better results, but these are pretty good results, I'd say. But we are not only just trying to cause damage with as little damage taken as possible, we also need to make sure the units closer to this army take damage as well. Fortunately, our odds are not the greatest against other armies of which we are surrounded. However, our odds appear particularly good against this special forces unit whose readiness and morale is already basically shaken. So the army that has just arrived in these fortifications is also going to strike out. 3 damage dealt. We dealt 3 whole damage and we lost 2. Okay, so now that makes this army here, that makes all of them up here more tempting targets than this one. Hopefully this spreads the Japanese fire out. We are China. We have men. We have manpower. And with the help of America, we have MPPs. We need to make sure our formations do not get destroyed. Because whereas Japan has elite formations, we have them in number. Any damage we can do, even at a loss in China, technically, is a benefit. So we're going to restore this corps back up to strength. We're going to restore the corps up here, or the army, back up to strength, as it has been the focus of enemy Japanese army fire. This army has only 7, so it either recently took a lot of damage or they just haven't done a very good job restoring it. Unfortunately, I have nothing to really pepper it with to get its readiness and morale down even further. However, judging by the fact that it is at 7, and I don't feel I could have done that much damage, maybe I did, there's a good chance that they don't have the MPPs to restore everything. They were repairing this HQ, and HQs are so expensive to repair. So we're going to do some more damage wherever we can. I am tempted to move these fighters forward to try to engage the enemy bombers up here. However, we have the same problem that China had in real life. These are my only fighters, and they're not good. Until we get something like an event for the Flying Tigers, it's going to be hard. We did go ahead, I believe, and we did purchase anti-air. So anti-air will be here soon. That will be of great help. And once we get that, we can use this fighter far more aggressively if I deploy it in this region, which I should, because this is where a lot of the enemy air is. We do need to tell this engineer what to make. I believe here it should be pretty simple. We're going to go set mode fortify, entirely facing right, 2 sides, up, down. That is all. That is plenty enough for the fortifications that we would need. We cannot break through Wuhan. This unit is elite. He's fully entrenched. It's just, we cannot break through, and it would be suicidal to move forward and attack this HQ. Our defenses here would essentially collapse, and we don't want to risk that. However, we do have opportunities popping up down here in the south. Opportunities we have been attempting to exploit by shifting units around, trying to damage this HQ as much as possible. No matter what we lose, doesn't matter. Draining the Japanese firepower and manpower is utmost priority. They do have an army down here, but they're not using it well enough. So we're going to start by immediately taking this 8 strength core and attacking the HQ. Shabam. Just like that. And then, with that, the enemy HQ has taken 2 more damage and we have taken none. So that is just a pure gain, especially with, again, I want to stress this, how expensive HQs are. Now, I cannot have everyone here fire, at least not from this perspective, because once I switch and attack, that's it. That's all. I can only switch once. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna switch the army that has recently arrived here. I believe it's recently gotten down here, been placed down here. So we're gonna take the first army. Yeah, it must be. It must be, because like, where's my other armies? What do they name? Fourth army? This is the first army? I don't really know why the numbers are like this. This one had XP, which actually helped it, funny enough. But we will take this army and have it attack no matter what might happen. We lost nothing and we killed 3. That's amazing. Yes, really getting them back good this turn. Of course, every turn is a microcosm, and this does not mean we are winning by any means at all. No. I don't want to move forward necessarily and provoke this army. I don't necessarily feel like that's a good idea. However, we have a good opportunity here to, if we can win the South, Hong Kong never has to fall. Now, historically, Hong Kong fell, and it was defended by the Canadians primarily, and they all had to surrender. I don't know that this game replicates that, but it's probably this army that would conquer Hong Kong for sure. If we can chase away the HQ here, we can destroy the supply here. Let's take a look at the supply. This is my supply, however. I can't really see their supply, but I can assume it's not very good here. It's probably like all coming from like this port and down here, and this HQ is probably a big part of it. So if we can somehow get this army to move. Unfortunately, no partisans here either. They probably have something back here. We have an excess of units on this defensive line that we can hope to put into use. At least that's what I'm thinking. So the thing about this army, right? It can only attack once. And as far as intel is showing me, it's alone. That's a big fucking deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 14th Corps here, right next to the 3rd Corps, and we're actually going to move it down here into the mountain behind, kind of behind the enemy garrison here. All right, so we can see there is an enemy corps back here, and it's not even sitting on the town. If it doesn't stay there or get back on there, that actually means we have a chance of getting a partisan unit there. So if we further stretch them here, we might get a free partisan unit. Now, I don't think partisans are very good outside of defending the towns they spawn in, but that would still be huge for destroying the Japanese supply lines down here and things like that. So I think it is time to push. That's what I think. This army can only strike once. So if I give it a number of targets to strike, see where I'm going with this? We are intentionally going to walk off of Quiling and get into the zone of control of the enemy army in Japan, from Japan here, surrounding it further. We're going to take this corps, the 14th that we moved down, and we are going to attack this garrison. We have dealt 1 damage and lost nothing. We are now going to attack it with the 1st Corps. We have dealt 2 damage and lost nothing. Due to their situation over here and all these rivers, I know they cannot reach Hengyang easily. I know that they cannot. There's no way they can get here that quickly. So I'm going to take the 3rd Corps and move it down as well. We're going to fully commit to this. Damn it. We just barely did not kill the Japanese garrison here, which is unfortunate. So let's go ahead and now retreat, since we still can move, back into the safety of the city. We have lost our entrenchments here, which is kind of silly. You'd think you could just leave them there, but we're back just in case to discourage them from coming this way, you know? We're holding a thinner but still present line in this region. So that's good. But this army is still a problem. It could move here and try to attack and defend its HQ. It could attack this corps to try to defend the garrison. It could swap with the garrison. The garrison could run away, or it could come this way, try to attack this corps with this corps. So it still needs more targets to shoot at. Therefore, the 5th Corps is going to move forward into its zone of control as well, for nothing more than being a diversionary force. And I'm going to take whatever number corps this is from Nanning, and we're going to move that down here and use it to attack this HQ. And just like that, we have also forced this HQ to retreat after doing at least, I believe, 2 damage to it. We have enough movement for this guy to step onto Nanning despite his injuries. So Nanning is still protected, and we have done a lot of damage to the Japanese down here. What's sad is this is a microcosm, right? The further up north we go, we see the strength of the Japanese is still very present. We are suffering in the upper center around Chengchao against the Japanese. Historically, I believe we are supposed to lose like all of this pretty much. The Chinese get pushed back very far historically, which is why their wartime capital is Chongqing. We cannot move at all in the north. There's maybe something we can do here, but I don't know if I want to risk it when we are safe in these entrenchments and thus discouraging Japanese movements in this region. But in the south here, we're seeing a lot of progress. Now, I'm not going to suicide any of my corps onto this army, but we've made life for this army very hard. It has a nearly dead garrison on Canton next to it. It has a nearly dead HQ near Haikou next to it. It has a potential partisan unit that could proc in Amoy near it. So if it's going to work together with this corps to hurt my corps, so be it. I can always reinforce. But what if that partisan unit spawns? Then you lose income. Then you lose supply. You see? And so I'm hoping that what I just did here was the right thing. I don't have a lot of points with China remaining. I don't need to spend everything that I have with China. I could save up to get something really good. But I do have an idea. I do believe down here in the south that our offensive will be so successful. It might not be. But I do have a belief that this coalition of corps and the one army here will be so successful that we can chase the Japanese out from down here. If that is true, I would like to move them and then destroy the Japanese by making them fight a new southern front. That is my goal, and maybe also reinforce other fronts we have by moving up the rail line. However, if I do that, Nanning, which is a national morale objective, not to mention Haikou down here, which is a secondary supply objective, will be defenseless. So I'm going to need garrisons to keep these defended. And there's not a lot of garrisons I feel like moving right now. We have these two in positions, but this is an industrial center, and this is the same with a national morale objective. This is also a national morale objective, if you believe it. And the thing is just that Indochina can collapse. It doesn't have to collapse, right? Because if we do push the Japanese out here, maybe they can't invade it. Maybe they have to actually step into it to invade it. I don't know, but with either logic, we would have to defend Nanning. That is of utmost importance. Maybe this guy in Kweichow can be moved because he doesn't need to be here because it's protected from every other direction and mountainous terrain. So there's that. But we still, in my opinion, do need more garrisons. We have 6 more garrisons that we could pay for and build. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to build a garrison for the Chinese because I believe it would be useful in freeing up other units. Let's go ahead and purchase that. The reason, and also, because look at Xi'an here, Industrial Center, National Morale Objective. If we could just place a garrison here and move this corps up to join the fray so we don't have to worry even if they get around us, that would be fantastic. I do know that if the Japanese do push through here and get close to Yan'an, we can potentially get the communists to help us like that. But if I can also just be successful and not get my ass beat and get Communist China to help me anyway, that would be even better. And with that, I believe that's everything I'm going to do this turn with every nation. So let's go ahead and hit end turn. I think that was a really long turn. British celebrate the capture of the Altmark in Norwegian waters. What? Okay. Axis raids disrupt Canada-UK convoys. Okay, so the subs that we have on patrol have something to go look for. We'll be able to see that next turn. Progress in naval weapons for America. Very good. I like breakthroughs. Progress, whatever that is. Spending on the Finnish expedition, so not very much MPPs for the French this time, but at least the Brits are helping pay for it because they can. They're the Brits. They have stuff. China's going to have plenty of MPPs. Thank you, America. USA still doing well. USSR needs way more, but we didn't really spend much as the USSR this turn. We'll be able to spend next turn. India still collecting. Very good. Very nice. We are calculating. Let's see what the Axis have in store for us. Germany declares war on the Netherlands. It is time. It is time. And they did start with the Netherlands. So the Netherlands is now in the war. Okay, Luxembourg as well. Are they going to go for all 3? Holy shit. That is some very elite infantry that's about to march into the Netherlands. Very elite. Luxembourg, Belgium, and Netherlands, they've declared war on all 3. And all 3 appear to have debuffs. Maybe historic debuffs, potentially. I don't know if this is just to help make this go smoother, to help the AI, but the carriers are doing exactly what I wanted them to do, at least this one is, and escorting against some air raids in the region. Unfortunately, meeting their limit right now. I wish it could have gone better. Germany does have some massive air power. The other carriers will be here soon enough, however, and hopefully win the day. Air fighting over China. They have moved into Luxembourg. Honestly, I was not expecting it to be this quick. I didn't think they'd do this quickly. Yet they are... Whew, they're destroying the Belgians and the Dutch as they did historically. They're alright, the Japanese are running into big problems though, so that's at least good. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to happen. I'm pretty sure there's historic debuffs given to the Dutch and the Belgians to make them get their asses beat here. And yeah, Belgium is pretty much already falling. And it just fucking started. Turn 1 in Brussels has already fallen. Yeah, I don't think there was much we could have done to stop that. If they can do this all in one turn. But the Japanese, on the other hand, are not seeing this kind of success. Okay. Okay. So Germany has begun their offensive. I was not done setting up my defense yet, unfortunately. So this is going to be a little brutal. This is going to be a little brutal. However... Ah, damn. Belgium already surrendered. Germany's plundered 121 MPPs, yep. Luxembourg surrenders, not a surprise, 15 MPPs. Belgian-Congo prepares for war. But with Belgium gone, who have you joined? Refugees block the roads, affecting Allied supply in northern France. Ooh, that's not good. A coal strike in New South Wales paralyzes the Australian economy. Ooh, great. Fall of Belgium spreads fear through French forces. Ooh, great. French troops panic as the Maginot Line is outflanked, but it's not outflanked. Morale boosted as the Maginot Line is it's not outflanked. What? Spain is moving towards the Axis. Looks like Germany is spending points to try to move Spain towards the Axis. Allied raiders disrupt Norway German convoys. Okay, good. German forces capture Eben Emel. Okay. What was all that? Outflanked the Maginot. I guess it's just the invasion of Belgium in general. But the Maginot was not outflanked. We have a defensive line there. Yeah, the Dutch and the Belgians got royally fucked up. They were brought into the war and they got their asses beat immediately. French morale actually doesn't look that bad. Yeah, poor Belgium already surrendered. But we do have the Belgian Congo now, for whatever that's worth. We do have the Belgian Congo. Decision! Intelligence reports increasing Japanese naval activity in the Pacific, and there is some concern our naval base in Singapore may be inadequate should the war expand in this theater. Would you like to mobilize Malaya so we can invest in expanding the port and naval defenses in Singapore at the cost of 200 MPPs? Saying yes means that Malaya will join the Allies. Otherwise, it will only join the Allies via diplomacy or when the Axis go to war with America. That's interesting. Now, in real life... Alright, that's not where the decision would be. It would be down over here. In real life, Malaya, which is this, did join the war. The Japanese had pushed in through Indochina and Thailand. And then Malaya, the Malayans were slaughtered, basically. Along with all the Brits and even some Indians that were there. But 200 MPPs, 50 per turn for 4 turns to get Malaya in the war now. I think I'm going to say yes to that. They would join eventually no matter what. But if I pay early, then I can get them set up early. We're going to go ahead and we're going to say yes to this. UK begins construction to expand port of Singapore. It also makes Singapore easier to defend. Malaya prepares for war. Very good. Given the grave situation on the continent and the need to maintain morale at home, it's strongly urged we improve the forces we have to defend the UK from invasion. There are now tens of thousands of enthusiastic local defense volunteers preparing to sell their lives dearly should the Germans invade. With a little investment in their training and equipment, we could turn them into an efficient fighting force, capable of taking a heavy toll of any Germans foolish enough to land. Winston Churchill has also suggested naming them the Home Guard. Would you like to spend 35 MPPs to improve the Home Guard's training and equipment? What do you mean by that? The Home Guard. I assume you don't mean the garrison. The Home Guard were a large volunteer force that stood prepared to defend Britain from invasion, and its service has been immortalized in the classic BBC sitcom Dad's Army. Advertisement? Hello? In the event of an invasion, Home Guard units can deploy at London, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, and Glasgow. Saying yes will also improve British national morale by 1,000 points. So basically, if the Germans land, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 free units, probably garrisons. 35 MPPs, that's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. And that should keep your morale maximized. The Second Corps has arrived for South Africa. That looks historical. The French have a heavy cruiser popping up. All right, we have dire situation in Europe. We have an absolutely dire European situation. I'd say the Chinese situation is going pretty well, actually, because as you saw there, all they did was move away from the front and reinforce their units. On all sides, they have retreated from the front. That is quite incredible, which means they've given up their fortifications everywhere that they moved. They were mostly on the offensive in the south here, and yeah, they definitely did attack down here, but this is something that I pretty much expected to happen, so it's nothing that surprises me, to say the very least. That HQ's still here, it will die. So I was curious who the Belgians joined, and as we look and see, the Belgians joined the UK by the looks of it, because, well, at least the Belgian Congo is with the UK. However, the Netherlands has joined France as a minor, so maybe Belgium itself might have joined France. It's hard to tell, because Belgium is dead. So, but the Belgian Congo is here. The Belgian Congo is only good, unfortunately, for supplying garrisons. However, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't see a convoy forming from the Belgian Congo. Where is the Belgian Congo? Here it is. But they have a garrison, and a new one can be recruited, and we can assume that they are potentially... Does any of their stuff have MPP value? It does. Naturally, I'd say it's probably safe to say that presence of a convoy or not, they are probably supplying their MPPs to the UK, which is good. And here's that tricksy German U-boat group off Canada. Yeah, we're gonna have to go intercept that. Looking at the in-game date and the historical date, this is in fact an early invasion. In real life, I don't think, Germany did not do this until May. So we have been inconvenienced by the unfortunate reality that we are 2 months, I believe, early. I would have had another 2 turns to prepare, and boy, did I need that 2 turns. The future of France is not looking too hot right now, but especially, when the Italians come marching, we haven't had the time to prepare any of that yet. Hopefully we can handle it. For now, let's look where the waters are calmer. Let's go look at America. The happy America that is suffering no problems in the world right now. We do not have the money to research anything that I necessarily care about right now. So, what we're going to do instead is we're going to get the few units they have up to snuff. Make sure they're ready should anything happen. Mainly through reinforcing for now. So we're going to get this army up to max. We're going to get this corps up to max. And that's going to make it also so that their readiness and morale can recover and go up. Because I want them to be ready. And it's not as simple as just one turn pouring money into them. There's other things that go into it. We cannot get this fighter group ready. The US Air Force, unfortunately. They cannot be readied yet. As for India, they are in no grave threat right now. Just by being in the war, they are providing the UK with some more MPPs, which is of vital importance, and I appreciate them so much for it. So for now, we're going to just try to keep taking advantage of the calm and the quiet to make sure we can actually raise whatever elite infantry and Indian units we can in the future. So one thing that's going to be vitally important for the Indians, given the fact that they are not on a front, is logistics. Logistics and maybe amphibious warfare. But logistics also covers regular transport units as well as operational movement. So we're going to start some research into logistics with India. We're getting ever so closer to the maximum research they can be doing at any one time as well. Once we hit that, we'll have no other choice but to start purchasing units or saving more money, but I will purchase units at that point. I'm just trying to make everything upcoming I know I'm going to have to do with them as cheap as possible, because when I buy them actual units, they're not going to deploy here. Ideally, I will not get pushed back to Chongqing like the Chinese did. Ideally, we will not get pushed back so far that the Reds actually even have to do any fighting. I'm hoping to win, and it's looking very promising here. They are going to be needed definitely against Europe. Europe is going to be the problem. I think it looks like we are doing amazingly against Japan. And I think it looks like with this early war, there is probably nothing I could do to save France to begin with. Probably nothing at all. I will go ahead and spend the French MPPs right now, though, because I feel that I might as well. And I'm gonna put them right here into the engineers. Because the engineers need, like, one more turn, I think, at least. They had 70 days, and it just started, like, 30 days ago. They're in the middle of making a fortification, and they're part of what's holding this line. They can only be attacked from one direction. So, not the worst thing in the world, but I want them to survive, and I don't want to stop making the goddamn thing they're making. Yeah, they will be done in April 12th, which is in the middle of the next turn. So they need some protection. The rest of the French front line is not actually doing that bad. So I'll go ahead and spend France's MPPs right now. So we've taken care of all three of those. Still, actual movements and other things we need to take care of course. However, we are out of time for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to have to actually do movements and stuff and look at this absolute hellscape that is France. And the horde of Germans that are pushing through occupied Belgium towards the BEF, and the inevitable next turn downfall of the Netherlands. There's nothing I can do to save this whatsoever. And, of course, the rest of everything we need to take care of. But that is a problem for a future Res, and present Res wants to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.